Go with. Something.
To choose one thing rather than another. For example, we decided to go with the Indian curry restaurant rather than the Japanese restaurant.
Have something to do with something.
To be about something, to be on the subject of something. To be related to something. For example, this book has something to do with cooking, and I am really sure you will like it.
Hold on.
To wait a minute. For example, please hold on for a minute while I take a picture of the view.
In a way.
To a certain extent, a little, somewhat. For example, in a way. I want to go to the pool party, but in a way, I don't really care.
In common.
Shared together or equally, in use or ownership by all. For example, Ryan had nothing in common with his cousin Jack of doing their homework.
In detail.
Giving all the details, item by item. For example, the saleswoman explained about the new product in detail.
In effect.
For practical purposes, basically. For example, Riley's silence was in effect a way of disagreeing with the other people in the meeting.
In fact.
Actually, the truth is. For example, my uncle has been to China before. In fact, he has been there 2 times.
In favor of someone or something.
Incidentally. For example, my company is in favor of changing our holiday schedule.
In general.
In most situations or circumstances. For example, in general, most of the people in our apartment are happy with the new rules.
In order to.
For the purpose of. For example, we have decided to close down the school for the summer in order to do some major repairs.
In order words.
In a different, usually more direct way. For example, in other words, if Vicky does not finish the assignment by Wednesday, he will not pass the course.
In place.
In the proper place or location. For example, everything in the room was in place when we arrived for the meeting.
In some ways.
In some unspecified way or manner, by some unspecified means. For example, in some ways I know what my girlfriend means, but in some ways I do not.
In terms of. Something.
With regard to something. For example, in terms of our agreement with the other company, we were not allowed to sell the products online.
In the case.
If something should happen. For example, I will take my umbrella in case it rains.
In time.
Early enough. For example, Miley did come home in time to meet her cousin.
Keep someone or something in mind.
To remember and think about someone or something. For example, Anne told her co-workers to keep the new starting time for work in mind.
Kind of.
Somewhat, more or less, moderately. For example, he was kind of tired when he almost arrived home last night.
Look for. Something.
To try to find something, to hunt or search for something. For example, my brother has been looking for his chip card all morning, but he can't find it.
Look up. Something.
To search for something. For example, Justin looked up the word in the dictionary.
Make a difference.
To cause a change in a situation. For example, he says that it does not make a difference whether their boss joins to the meeting or not.
Make sense.
To seem reasonable. For example, Richard's new proposal really does make sense.
Make sure.
To make certain, to establish something without a doubt. For example, I want to make sure that my friend is going to meet me tomorrow.
More or less.
To some extent. For example, Steve more or less has decided to study business next year.
No matter.
Regardless. For example, no matter how hard I try, my boss is never satisfied of the result.
Not at all.
Certainly not. For example, Sam is not at all happy with his new computer.
Of course.
Certainly, definitely, naturally. For example, of course you can use my car if you want to.
On the other hand.
However, in contrast, looking at the opposite side of a matter. For example, Arnold is very intelligent, but on the other hand, David is very lazy and always gets low marks at school.
On time.
At the scheduled time, exactly at the correct time, punctually. For example, our train arrived exactly on time.
Once again.
Again, one more time, once more. For example, Billy tried once again to phone his boss at his home.